right, y'all. So my hope is that over these next few days, you are going to be encouraged. You're going to feel inspired. You're going to have some tools that maybe you didn't even have before you started, or maybe you'll just be reminded of some things that you used to do that you stopped doing. And in today's conversation, I wanted to mix it up a little bit. So we got a panel discussion for you with two amazing women that I'll be sharing with you in just a second. But I just hope that as you are walking through these next few days, that you are taking some time to pause and listen. What is the Lord speaking to your heart about how you want to lead moving forward? What are your needs as you're moving forward? And you being able to verbalize and communicate that. And so that's a lot of what me and my guests today will be sharing with you. And so we'll just jump right into the conversation. So welcome to our series, both Natasha and Erica.
Hello.
Hi.
All right. I would love for the two of you just to start off by, introducing yourself. Like, how would you describe who you are and the work that you do? And any one of y'all can just jump in.
You want to go, Erica?
Sure. So my name is Erica Glaze. I'm a Phoenix native, born and raised here. And I would say I describe myself as, well, in the community, I describe myself as a health educator and lactation consultant. And so my job is really to help promote well-being and health equity. When I find myself in like a health educator or consulting role, and then as an IBCLC, really just helping families reach their feeding goals, like whatever that looks like for the family, making sure that they can achieve that and they have the support to do it. And then outside of that work, I'm a wife, a mom, daughter, sister, all those other titles too. So managing all of that, having two boys, a 6-year-old and a 4-month-old. So I'm getting some sleep, but not a lot, enough to function. so that keeps me pretty busy too. But that's about me.
And Erica, I believe you're not on maternity leave anymore. You started back to work in the last week or so, right?
I did the last 2 weeks.
And then how has it been, that transition of you're now a family of 4 and you went from being a family of 3 to a family of 4.
Yeah.
And how has that been getting back to work?
It's been good. Thankfully, I'm working on days when Steven is off or a day when my mother-in-law or my mom can help. So it's nice that I don't have the stress of like, okay, where's my child going to be when I'm at work, which I think would have made it a lot harder for me. But it's been good. I've been telling people when I get to the breastfeeding center, like, I'm getting back into it. I might be a little rusty. If I forget something, I might come back to it. But it's nice that I work with the population I work with because they understand. They're like, oh, you have a baby too? I'm like, yep. I'm tired just like you, but I'm here. But I'm just trying to give myself grace. Like the one thing I've been doing, which I started during pregnancy, is just waking up and asking God, like, what am I graced to do today? If I'm not graced to do it, it's not going to happen. Or just move it out the way and trying to just be comfortable in that, like, oh, I only have the grace to do these 5 things today and I got them done really well.
So good. What am I graced to do today? Yes, yes. And how has that shifted how you feel from day to day, asking that question?
I think it's helped because I'm one of those people who likes to have things planned and be like in control. Before I came,
No, we can't relate to that at all.
before I came back, I told the owner of the breastfeeding center, like, okay, I'm going to work these days at these times every week. And so far, that has not happened at all. Like that schedule I set has not happened at all. So I've just been going back and being like, okay, what am I graced to do? What am I graced to do? Because I don't want to do something outside of that because it's just going to be harder and more stressful for me.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So thank you for sharing that. Natasha, what about you?
Hi, I'm Natasha, or MPT. I'm a family nurse practitioner, and I'm also certified in perinatal mental health and health coaching. I own Aurora Maternal and Family Health Care. We help motivated women and families improve mental health, manage chronic conditions in order to reclaim wellness from bump to baby and beyond. Our services also include primary care, pregnancy wellness coaching, postpartum support, pediatric care, and providing parents with resources if they have concerns about developmental delays and disabilities. I'm also a mom of 3 living, and then I'm a wife. Yeah, so that's been the challenge. Summer is out, so it's like trying to work and be there with them because I really enjoy being at home with them during the summers. I love that I can make my own schedule. But I was blessed this summer, to get interns, and they have helped me do all the things that I did not want to do. And these were tasks that I've had on my list for months, maybe a year. And it was like, I really need these resource lists. And they've compiled my resource list with primary care professionals, OBGYNs, specialty services, community centers, schools, just so I can build my network out and start to network more with other professionals in the area that's close, so people know that we exist and what we offer. And I swear they've saved me over like 40, 50 hours already of work that I just did not want to do, but I know it needed to be done. And so I'm feeling real blessed this summer. We learned about our systems in the CME program, and that's been a lot of my focus right now, because one of the things they said is when we jump into business, we have all the knowledge in our head, but how do you implement that into your business? And so now it's me writing out like my policies and what I want my day-to-day to look like, and just different documents like that I didn't think I needed it because it was all in my head. So that's where I've been at this summer.
Yeah, I thank you for sharing that. Yes, so Natasha and I, we met through a business development program where we both won a grant, and then it came with about 10 months, I think, of business development coaching and training. And so I'm happy to hear you having those interns, because I feel like that was something that you really worked on the whole time that we were a part of that program.
Yes, they were needed. And I knew I was trying to find interns, and a lot of the nursing programs want hands-on for patient care. And because I don't have a lot of that right now, I could take those interns. These are youth interns where some of them want to be in the medical field. I have one girl who her focus is creating content and videos. And I said, God, you were sent to me. Because I needed to start recording my stuff for my channel and things like that. So it was just, it's been a busy summer, very busy. I didn't realize how busy it was when I started the summer. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be at home with my kids all day. And then they're like, well, you'll get one intern. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool, 4 weeks. And I'm like, can you take another? Can you take another? Can you take another? And they're staggered. So it's like I have 3 or 4. Right now I have 4 at a time, but they stagger off. And then I've gotten some events coming up where they'll get to see that. So I did not see my summer being this way. And
yeah. And one of the things that I hear that's a common between you and Erica is just getting the support that you need. That's a big part of us learning how to relieve some of the stress that we feel, is the fact that not thinking that we have to be the ones doing everything. So in Erica's case, her having that family support, and I know you also have family support as well. And then for you as a business owner, you actually having people on your team that can help lighten the load. One of the questions that I wanted to ask both of you is, what do you feel like you've learned about yourself now? Like, so at this stage of you being in the health field, because you're both in the health field, what have you learned about yourself now that you maybe didn't know when you first got started? And either one of y'all can jump in.
I'm gonna think on it.
I would say for me, like when I first entered the healthcare field, I was so naive and I didn't really know what nursing was. I remember being in school. I didn't want to be a nurse. That's a whole long conversation, but ended up was not doing well in school. And I was like, I need to graduate with a job. And the only one, only degree I saw that really gave you a job when you graduated was nursing. And I was like, okay, it's in the medical field. I had intentions of going into the medical field. I was like, I'll do this for now and figure out my life later. And when I got into it, like nursing school does not prepare you for actual nursing. Like I feel like in nursing school, it was like bed baths and all you doing was cleaning your patients. I felt like that's all they taught us. And then when you get into nursing and you realize how complex it was really just learning nursing and then figuring out, well, what is it I want to do in nursing? And I went in as an Army nurse and they kind of told me where I was going to be. And hindsight, that was probably the best position for me to go into my field. But now I've learned like it's complex and even my journey into figuring out the healthcare system was like, oh, now I know what my patients mean when they're coming back and they're like, I went to this specialist, they didn't listen to me, or they said this and that, and I'm sending them to the specialist for a certain kind of exam or a test, and they don't do it, and it's like now I got to send you back, and now the patients are upset. So for me, it was like learning nursing and then experiencing the medical system personally. I was just like, oh, now I see what you're talking about. So let's work together so I can help you figure out the best plan because I also struggle with it. So I would say that was what I learned.
Yeah, that part about them going and hearing that person didn't listen to me. I think that's a very common in many different ways, but I think especially in healthcare, because I think part of the barrier sometimes in healthcare is that there's this person that feel they are the expert. They have all this knowledge that you don't necessarily have as a patient or a consumer, and it can feel a little bit intimidating. And so having someone like you or someone like Erica that can be that support for them, I think is really valuable for people. And I actually want us to come back to that in just a second. So Erica, what about you?
So it's so funny as you were talking, Natasha, I was like, oh, that is kind of similar to me. So I've always wanted to be in healthcare. But it was the opposite. I actually wanted to be a nurse. Like I started out going to NAU, preparing to enter into their nursing program. But when I went to apply, I didn't get in because my science grades were a little too low. And so I went and met with an advisor, and she's like, okay, you need to retake these, like, I think it was 2 or 3 science classes to bring your GPA up to make you more competitive. And I was like, yeah, no. Like, I don't like science. Like, I barely passed those classes. So I went and sat with her. I was like, what else can I do? Like, what other programs do y'all have in this building? I need to get out in 4 years and I want it to be a health degree. And she's like, well, have you thought about community health? And I was like, nope, but sign me up. Like, whatever it is, I'll take it. And so that's kind of what started my journey into health, getting a degree in community health. And I would say too, like, I was a little naive, didn't know a lot about, healthcare at that time. And when I graduated, I had this perception of health and what I thought it took to be healthy. Because in the community health programs, they talk to you about like behavior change, healthy eating, nutrition, diet. And then when you get out there and you're in community and you see like, oh, we're talking about people, but they never talk to me about power. They never talk to me about systems. And so now I actually see like the dynamics that are in play that are making it hard for people to actually be healthy. And so for me, that was a big eye opener because I came out thinking like, oh, I'm gonna tell people how to eat. I'm gonna tell them how to change their behaviors. I know about behavior change theory, all of this stuff. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
girl, stop. Like people got real issues. They're battling like racism and power, and there's money and greed and all these things involved that are actually making it harder for people to thrive and live, and reach their, optimal health. And so for me, that's just something that I've learned. And I think over the years, it has encouraged me to be more confident in speaking up because I have that experience now. And I know like what it takes. And I've seen people, fight systems and trying to get the care that they need. So I feel more confident just speaking up and advocating in spaces where I probably wouldn't have felt like that when I first came out of like undergraduate.
Hmm. Interesting. So hearing you again talking about speaking up for yourself. So how would you describe how good you are at advocating for yourself, Erica?
So I would say for myself, I think it's been a little bit of a challenge, right? It's easier to tell somebody what to do than actually take your own advice sometimes. Um, I think back to like my first pregnancy, there are times I look back like, why didn't you say that? Or why didn't you do that for yourself? So I think I've learned over the years to be more of a voice for myself than a voice for other people, because that's the easier route. I'm
Mhm.
like, I could go back and forth with you about this person because you don't know me. We ain't got to like each other after this. But it's hard sometimes when it's you. But I think having kids now and wanting them to be able to stand up for themselves, I feel like I have a responsibility then to show them, like, this is what that looks like. And you can do it in a way that's not mean or aggressive, but this is what it takes. And I want them to see me do it first, so then they have the confidence to go out and do it for themselves.
Just like your smartphone needs regular charging, so do you. Without regular recharging, your energy and spirit can run out, leaving you feeling drained and ineffective. Join the Strong Her Leadership Coaching Cohort to build soul care habits that prioritize your well being. Nurture your inner self, not just to care for others, but to sustain your own health and happiness. Strengthen your capacity to lead with confidence and resilience. Prioritize yourself and see the difference it makes in your life and leadership. Learn more at strongher.me/leadership cohort. What do you think makes it so challenging for us to speak up for ourselves and so easy to speak up for other people?
That's a good question. I don't know. I just feel like it's that, easier said than done type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it just seems a little bit easier when somebody comes and they're, okay, this is an issue. Um, this is the issue that I'm having related to like health or trying to navigate some type of system.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because one, we've probably been trained to do that for other people. Like in our jobs, in our roles, like my role is to help advocate. Like that's within my scope of practice. And so I'm good at like doing that. But then when it comes to us, like if you haven't been taught how to do that, like I don't really remember, anyone in my family sitting down with me and teaching me that because it really is a skill. So if you haven't been taught that, then it's hard to see that for yourself. But if it's your job, then you're like, okay, this is what I'm getting paid to do. Like, I know how to do this. I'm going to do this for my patients and my clients.
Hmm. Natasha, you have any thoughts about that? Of why it's so much easier to advocate for other people than it is for yourself? And has that been the case for you? Maybe it hasn't been the case. Maybe it is easy for you to advocate for yourself.
I would say no, it has not always been easy. But I would say I feel like I've been an advocate for others for a very, very long time. And it's one instance when I was in the military. And I kept getting in trouble about my hair. My hair was naturally curly, probably like your length, Kendra.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, is that in regulation? And I personally read the regulation to know if my hair was within regulation. And I was like, my hair is in its natural state and my cover can fit. A cover is the hat, what goes on your head. And I remember I was constantly by higher ups saying, they're telling me your hair is not in regulation. And then one time they actually sent a commander out to PT, and it happened to be a Black woman. And they sent her out, and she was like, ma'am, now you know you were pushing the boundaries. And she was right. I was really pushing the boundaries in that moment. Like, I had a big fro. Like, I could have tamed it better. But at the same time, it was like, no, I'm advocating that this is my natural hair. And that was always like one of those moments where I feel like I did stand up for myself.
Yes.
But personal relationships, I feel is harder. And like Erica said, I don't remember anyone sitting down talking to us about our feelings and how things made us feel, or if something happened bad, it was more so let's solve it. Like if something happened in school with someone, my mom is marching down to the school and I'm like, hey, that's really not helping me because now I have to deal with the after effects of it. Like now it's going to make it worse. Whereas I could have had tools to deal with that or something. So I was just saying, for me, it's like not something that I've known how to do for myself. And it wasn't until I had my twins where I really had to go in and advocate for her getting feeding therapy and getting all sorts of services, going to the different professionals and realizing like, oh my goodness, I see what my patients are talking about now when they're going to these professionals. And had I not known the language when I go into these conversations, I'm like, oh, I think she needs a feeding tube. Most people don't know that. They're like, my baby's not eating. I don't know what to do. And so then they can prolong the process, and they kept sending her back to feeding therapy, and the feeding therapist wanted her to use a bottle. And I'm like, no, let's skip that. Can we find other solutions? Because this child doesn't have the physical motor skills to suck, swallow, and breathe. Like, she had low muscle tone. So I'm like, there has to be something that we can do otherwise as she continues to grow her muscles and things like that. But at that time, she did not want the bottle. And so I had to really advocate for her. And for that, it started teaching me to advocate for myself, where I'm like, you know what? I don't like this either. No. And I feel like, and for my, like she was saying, my kids, it's mostly now I'm starting to advocate for myself, even with my kids. They're like, hey, will you play with me right now? And I have to say, no, mommy needs time alone.
Yes.
Yes.
And it feels bad in the moment because you're like, I really could just play with you. Like, it's not hurting me to play with you right now. But I'm really tired and I just did this, that, and the third for you. And I would really like some quiet time for myself. So showing them that, showing them like when my kids come in while I'm meditating, they'll talk to me in the middle of it and I'll be like, hey, mommy's, but I let them sit there with me so they can see it. So it's just those kind of models of self-care. When I'm taking a bath, they'll walk in, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm taking me time. And so as they get older, like one of my girls, she's very emotional and she's like, I need time alone, mom. And I was like, yes. Like, oh, yes, it's working. But
Yeah.
that.
It sounds like for both of you, like your children were a catalyst for you to learn how to advocate for yourself. And so I know that you maybe haven't necessarily sat down and like, what are the steps that I took to learn how to advocate for myself? But the women that are going to be watching this, I'm positive they will be able to identify with what both of you have shared. And when you think about just even the example, Natasha, you just gave, or Erica, the example you gave, how would you encourage a woman? Like, what's one thing that you would encourage her to do to start advocating for herself?
I would say learn your emotions. Because there's a lot of feelings that we don't even know. That movie Inside Out too triggered me, and I was like, excuse me. And then my kids were identifying like, mommy, you're joy most of the time, but then sometimes you're anxiety. I'm like, hold on, wait a minute, how you know I'm anxiety? That's inside. But whatever it is that I'm displaying in those moments, they're seeing. So I would say learning to even identifying the emotions that you're feeling, why you're feeling those emotions, sometimes it can go back to something that happened 20 years from now, and you're relearning how to handle a situation as a child, as an adult with your child, because you're seeing different things that are mirroring them. And so for me, it was just like really sitting in those feelings and emotions. And for me, meditation has been what helped me with that. Um, and I want to emphasize with meditation, a lot of people think it's the quieting of this noise and you have to be completely silent and all the stuff. If the stuff is going on in your head, it's not working. I'm like, nah, it's working. That stuff going on in your head is going to always go on in your head, but you have to figure out how to stop some of those thoughts before they spiral into where you're feeling anxious or having a panic attack, or you're feeling like, okay, I don't know what this feeling is. And then you stop and you're like, oh, what is wrong with me? Have I ate today? Have I drank today? Did I miss something today? Did I not get enough sleep last night? Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? Why am I easily triggered by certain circumstances that normally I wouldn't be bothered by? So I would say learning how your emotions affect you and really being able to identify like, oh, I'm angry. Why am I angry? And then like for also like women don't really know their cycles. Their menstrual cycles have a lot. Your hormones have a lot of play into how you're feeling. So if you're like a week out from your cycle and you're like, I'm snapping on everybody, what's going on? And you're like, hold on, let me go back to my calendar. Let me look back. Oh, yep, I'm a week out. And then you can start, not saying that the emotions and the hormones will stop but you can start to like, oh, I'm a little off today. Maybe I need some more me time today. Maybe I don't need to schedule as many events around this time of my life cycle, my period cycle, and things like that. So I would just say learning your emotions, learning your body, feeling those emotions, and then learning how to not allow them to control you.
Thank you. That was so helpful. Learning to identify the source of your emotions and how they're affecting you. That's very, very helpful. Erica, did you want to add anything to that?
I would just have maybe two things. So one thing that helped me, like I knew this before, and I would often bring it up in my community work, especially related to like health equity. A lot of times in groups, I would remind them that two truths can exist at the same time. And that's something that I was reminded of in therapy right before I had my second son. Because I was going in for another C-section and trying to pump myself up, like, okay, you got this. You're not afraid. You've healed. You've been through therapy. You've been working on all these things. But really deep down inside, like there was some fear too. And so one of the things that my therapist told me, she's like, it's okay for fear and excitement to also be present. Like they can both be present, but you can hold them in different ways. And you can hold fear in a way that it doesn't control you. So just trying to balance the emotions instead of like trying to suppress one, like, nope, no fear. You can't exist here. Like, nope, I'm beyond fear. Because then I think it makes it harder for you to one, communicate and to talk and to really be honest about how you feel when you're trying to suppress an emotion that you don't want to have or an emotion that you don't feel like is a good one. Like it's okay for it to be present. It's just a matter of how it shows up and how you hold it. So feel like once you kind of figure that out and once you sit with whatever it is that's coming up, I think it's easier to use your voice. I have this sticker on my water bottle that says use your voice even if it shakes. And so that's something that is a reminder to me daily, like even in conversations where I know like they are not gonna like what I'm about to say. Like even if my voice shakes when I get it out, I'm still gonna speak it. Like I still want to speak it into the room and into the atmosphere because somebody else may need me to say it. Somebody else is probably waiting to say it and they don't have the courage to say it, but I'm going to even speak it, even if it doesn't come out as polished as I would like for it to be.
I'm pausing because I think that what both of you shared is really, really powerful and impactful, and it's life-changing. Like if you can learn to allow yourself to feel the emotions that you feel, to accept the fact that two things can be true at the same time, if you can identify what is the source of this, like where is this really coming from, all of those things can be empowering. Like they can be what you can use as fuel to know, okay, this is the next step that I want to take. This is why it's important for my voice to be heard in this, because I do think that sometimes part of the reason you feel that fear is that it's trying to tell you something. It's trying to let you know that something does need to change, that something does need to be different. And then just being able to embrace that. So I just, when you're watching this video right now, I just encourage you to pause and check in with yourself and answer those questions some of those questions that they just shared with us about what is the source of the emotions that you've been feeling? What brought you to this retreat that you decided now I need a break from my regular day-to-day life with all the demands that I have because I need something to be different in my life? And what is the different that you're looking for? And how is your voice going to need to be activated in order for you to actually get what it is that you want? So one of the last things I wanted to ask the two of you is, what is something that you will want? Like if you could sit down with every woman in your family, for example, right? And what would you want her to know about advocating for herself, especially if she is in a position where she is leading or mentoring other people?
So for me, one thing that came up, like when you said that, for me is like accountability. So that's one thing that I'm big on in my work in community, and I've been trying to bring that into like personal life. So whenever I'm working on a contract or doing anything, I always ask myself, like, who am I accountable to in this moment? So you've hired me to do this work. Who is it going to impact? And if they were in front of me, like I'm accountable to them, and I want them to know that I did my very best.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that I've been trying to bring into my personal life, like be accountable to myself too, and be grateful and express gratitude to myself. So if I'm out and I have to make a decision or I'm trying to advocate for myself, I want Erica to know that I'm going to stand up for Erica, that I'm going to say what needs to be said, that I'm going to protect her and to love her, and that she's doing the best that she can. And I want myself to be proud of me. And I want to be able to look in the mirror and be like, okay, I did this for me. Like you did that for yourself. Like good for you. I want to be proud of me. And so that's one thing that I've been trying to do is just when I have those moments where I need to stand up for myself to do it because I want to make her proud, and express my gratitude to myself too.
Mm.
I love that.
Yes. Natasha?
I would say for me, it will probably be being vulnerable. I don't know. A lot of people who may know me know that like I don't share a lot about me personally, and that's with a lot of people that's close to me. So I would say for me is leaning into your support systems. I've always took the road of like I was an only child. My parents, I was a good student, so no one really was like, hey. It appeared on the outside that everything was put together. Whereas hindsight, I was battling a lot of anxiety as a child. And then when I had my kids, I had my son and I realized postpartum anxiety, which I didn't know what it was at the time. I was like, I'm just reading all the time and I don't feel comfortable with any solution that I have with my son as to why he's fussy at this present moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
And there was really nothing wrong with him. It was just me. And when I said I was going to stop reading and putting the books down and really honing in on myself and my own intuition, it was where it kind of calmed down. And when was pregnant with my twins, being a medical professional for me, it's like, I know all the things that can go wrong. So why am I going to put that on my husband? So when I'm going to these appointments and going to all these specialists and they're telling me different things, like one point is smaller than the other, you need to go get this test done to look at her heart because we can't see her heart to make sure she has a full heart. And those times, like hindsight, I'm like, man, I really should have just shared those concerns with my husband. But we also have that thought process when you speak it out, you speak it into existence. And so that belief system of, hey, there might be something wrong with her heart. I felt like saying that was going to really make something wrong with her heart. Whereas I'd rather go to the appointment, get the confirmation that her heart is fine, and then go back and talk to him. But as I went back to talk to him, I didn't go through the feelings that I was feeling in those moments. And even now, we're just now starting to talk about some of the experiences we had with all of our kids now because we're out of those moments of where it was difficult. And now he's sharing like, well, this is what I thought. And I'm like, well, this is what I thought. And he's like, well, you should have told me those thoughts you had. And so for me, I would say advocacy isn't about doing it alone. And finding your voice is also being able to share and be vulnerable with someone else and it's not like you're dumping on them. You're just, hey, this is my concerns. And then we can talk about, well, what are the likelihood of this? And then just bringing you out of those spiraling thoughts of anxiety for me, where I was just like, in my head, everything was in my head, but having it out. So I would say that is relying on your support systems and really being able to be vulnerable and not feel like you have to do it all, you have to know it all. And if you make a mistake, it's the world's coming crumbling down on you because you're the strong one. And really being vulnerable and allowing yourself to, what is it, not feel needed? Is it feel needed or be needed or need someone else? That's what it is, needing someone else. Like you really do need someone to be there for you. And there's times where you can be weak and you don't have to carry it all. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. Like as I was listening to both of you, I think that what you shared about being the accountability and the being vulnerable is probably two of the biggest barriers to us actually being authentic and sharing when we have a need. And so I think that what you shared is something that really touches on what's at the heart of all of this and what is at the heart of why we don't always tell people what our needs are. And then here we are suffering in silence. This retreat is about, we're calling it recharge. So and what the image I always see is a battery that's been drained, right? Or, how on our phones we can see when we're at 20%, right? We can see when we're at 10%, but we don't necessarily see that in our lives. Like, hey, I'm at 30%. And it would really help recharge me a little bit if I wasn't the one carrying all this weight of knowing all of these things and having all these questions and not sharing them with anybody. And the recharging can be you now telling people, hey, I know it looks like I got it all together and I have it all figured out, but I need some help. I need some help. I need someone else to step in, and I need someone else to support what I'm doing. I need someone else. And I don't have all the answers. And so I just want to thank you both for sharing what you've shared today, because I really and truly feel that you really have gotten to the heart of so much of what, why we are at the point that we are, where our battery is drained, our spiritual battery is drained, our internal batteries are drained. And so what I'm hoping is that what you've shared will give other women permission to recharge and get the support that they actually need, and using their voice in the process for that. So as Erica said, use your voice even if it shakes, right? Even as you're telling people and that emotion is coming up and it shakes. So If women would like to connect with you, either of you, after they watch this video or they have this time, I want to give both of you an opportunity to share how they can connect with you, or maybe they have a friend or a family member who's like, you know what, they really could use someone as empathetic and caring as the two of you are, as a part of their health plan and supporting them. So I just want to give you both a chance to share your information.
You can find me on my website, auroramaternalfamilyhealth.com. I'm also on Instagram, Bottles, Boobs, and Feeding Tubes. TikTok, I'm at mp.t.aurorafamilyhealth. And my YouTube channel is Bottles, Boobs, and Feeding Tubes.
Erica?
And then you can find me at the Arizona Breastfeeding Center in Tempe. You can also find me on Instagram at Live Wealthy LLC. And the wealthy is not spelled like money, it's spelled WELLTHY. And then I am also part of Arizona Birth Workers of Color. So you can find out more about our information on Facebook, Instagram, or on the website too.
All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.